Get ready to put the pedal to the metal in the ultimate sewing machine showdown between my highest and lowest price machines. Welcome to the Sewing Report. I'm Jen. This channel is all about sewing crafts and DIY projects. We're gonna do something fun and hopefully enlightening for you and for me, and it's been something I have been wondering for a while now. Is a cheaper sewing machine as good as an expensive one? I have 5 of what you would call domestic sewing machines. This is the most budget friendly. This is the Brother CS7000i, and this is my priciest sewing machine, the Janome 7700 QCP. This was $2,500. Now the price of the Brother has been changing quite a bit, so I don't want to give you an exact number because Amazon's been a little crazy lately, and that's where I picked up mine. But this is what you'd consider an entry-level budget machine, and I would say that's any machine that's under about $200. I will say that I paid 15 times more for the Janome 7700 in comparison to the Brother CS7000i. I like both machines. Is it any better? I really wanted to put this to the test, and we're gonna do a series of direct side-by-side comparisons with the same stitches and the same external factors. Like, we're gonna be using the same thread, the same needle, the same fabric, and the same or equivalent settings like stitches and stitch length, stitch width, and I wanna see what's the difference between these two machines. Let's find out. And stick with me towards the end because I'm gonna talk more about my experiences with buying both of these sewing machines, how you can make sure you're choosing the right machine for you if this is your first time and you're new to sewing. But first, let's go over some of the specs of these wonderful sewing machines. There are quite a few differences between the two models, and that's certainly reflected in the price. The Janome 7700 has a lot more stitches, additional presser feet, can sew faster, and has the built-in AccuFeed walking foot. Although the Brother CS7000i comes with an extension table, sews almost as fast, and has the same maximum stitch width and length. For the tests, I'm doing some of the more common stitching situations, and I'm going to be showing you the stitch out and the finished stitches side by side close up. First up, the straight stitch with 2 layers of lightweight quilting cotton, stitch length of 2.5, and standard feet. No real issues with either machine. Both samples show a slight slant to the front stitches, which is fairly common with lighter fabric, but I do think the Brother side is technically straighter. The slanting is less noticeable on the back. Winner, Brother. Zigzag time, same fabric, stitch length 1.5, stitch width 5.0, easy to sew. There was a bit of tunneling with both samples, but I thought the Brother Zigzag was overall better in terms of the tunneling. Winner, Brother. Before moving on, here's a closer look at the straight and zigzag stitching. I doubt the average person would be able to point out the differences. The triple stitch is both reinforcing and a stretch stitch because it takes 2 stitches forward, then 1 stitch back. Performed on 2 layers of quilting cotton, stitch length 2.5. With this test, I felt the results were extremely comparable, although the Janome stitching appears somewhat looser and more spread out. Winner, Brother, but it was really close. Overcasting is a type of stretch stitch commonly used to cover raw seams. Both sewing machines have this stitch. It's an alternative to using a serger. Stitch length 2.5, stitch width 5.0. Right off the bat, the Janome hits a snag when the fabric gets eaten up by the needle plate. I ended up having to sew away from the edge, and this one was easier on the Brother. Here's the front and back. Winner, Brother, because it is important to be able to sew an overcasting stitch on the edge of the fabric. Decorative stitches. I selected a few on each machine with the same type of design, like leaves. Stitch numbers and details are below in the description box. While both machines' decorative stitching came out nicely, the Janome left bigger needle holes on its sample, so I gotta give this round again to Brother. You can see how pronounced the holes are on the back. And here are closer looks at the decorative stitch samples. Before we get to buttonholes, I had to top stitch the placket samples done with 3.0 stitch lengths. The fabric was prepped just like I would for making a shirt, a strip of fusible interfacing, and 3 layers of cotton, 0.4 stitch length, 4.0 stitch width on the Janome, and a 0.3 stitch length on the Brother in order to get the buttonholes to look similar. This comparison was difficult to judge because the samples really are extremely close in quality. The Janome's bar tack section is slightly neater, so the winner of this round is Janome. Now we're trying out the stretch stitch and 2 layers of cotton interlock knit fabric. Plus I switched to a ballpoint needle. Stitch length 2.5. Right off the bat, the Brother needle plate ate the edge of the fabric, so I had to move it up. It did cause a bit of a mess with the thread. Both machine stretch stitches appear neat in uniform, but they do have slightly different and distinct styles. Janome wins here due to Brother's trouble at the beginning, but not because of the stitch quality. As far as utility goes, both samples were able to be stretched in either direction without issue. For any seamstress, it's important that a sewing machine be able to handle lightweight and slippery fabrics like this rayon chalice. I used a straight stitch on 2 layers of fabric and switched to a Microtex needle. The samples look pretty much identical and neither machine experienced problems with the rayon. I'm rendering a tie for sewing lightweight fabric. Final round, breaking out the walking foot for a quilting challenge. The machine sewed a quilt sandwich consisting of 2 layers of quilting cotton with batting in the middle. Stitch length 4.0. No issues with either machine. Thanks to the multiple layers, the stitches are straighter and really do look identical. Both sewing machines were marketed to quilters and performed strong. Closer up you can see just how much the results look the same. While I do prefer the Janome's big throat space and built-in AccuFeed foot for quilting, as far as the samples go, this round also ends in a tie. And just to recap, here's a look at the final leaderboard. Drumroll please, I cannot believe I'm saying this, but the overall winner is Brother! Did the results surprise you? Because I have to say I was left very surprised. I have never done a direct comparison to sewing machines before. I felt the Brother performed just as well as the Janome. I thought they were pretty much the same. I thought the stitching looked very, very similar. And if you're in the market for a sewing machine and you're like, man, I wish I had the budget for a sewing machine like the Janome 7700, you know, you might be better off going with something that's more budget friendly, especially if you don't have a big budget to begin with. I'm gonna stop myself right here because I talked so much. If you want the whole diatribe, I'm linking it up in the right corner and in the description box as a bonus video. And if you are looking for an entry-level machine, my experience with Brother has been positive. Let me know in the comments, which machine do you feel performed better? And if you're looking for beginner sewing machine videos, I've got plenty here on the channel. I'm gonna link them here and below in the description box. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you found this helpful. I'm Jen with the Sewing Report. I'll see you guys again in the next video.